Lead generation is easy, and over the last 30 years, I've helped thousands of businesses generate millions of leads, and today I'm going to show you how to generate daily leads for your consulting business. You know, often when I'm speaking to consultants, they really have this feast and famine situation where they've got a lot of people coming at them or they've got nobody. And so there's often a scramble on trying to find opportunities, really trying to feed you and your family. Well, if you've got strong lead generation created, it makes it a lot easier to go from a lead to a prospect once you have a list of people that you can speak to. So on the show today, I want to show you the specific 6 steps that I'm going to lead you through to enable you to build a lead generation machine of your very own.
I will never be the same, 'cause that's what it takes.
Hi, my name's Russell Pearson and welcome to your Consulting Business Podcast, episode 140. Whether you are new to business or whether you've been in business for many years, maybe decades, there is nothing better than getting daily leads. This is leads while you sleep, leads while you're working. They come into your inbox and now you've got a lot of other people to speak to. Today I'm going to show you what is the process to actually create a lead generation machine, and it doesn't actually take that much effort, just takes a little bit of thought, and I'll show you the steps specifically how to start and how to actually scale up on the other end. When it comes to lead generation, there's a couple of things that I want you to understand. These are sort of the language that we want to use. You will have probably seen something like a sales funnel before. And that's where we bring people in the top of the funnel and we work them through to a sale at the other end. Now, I like to think of there being 2 parts to a sales funnel. This part being marketing, that says marketing, and this one being sales. So anything below the actual funnel itself, that's the sales spout. Spout, the word I'm looking for, right? Now, there's 2 steps in between here and here. Now, leads are in the middle. And so that's why I want you to understand what we're generating here. We're generating leads, and I'll explain all that in just a moment. Now, before we get into it, there are suspects. These are people we suspect could use our services, and that's because they're in the right industry, they're the right type of business, maybe they're the right type of demographic, or whatever it is that we suspect they could be ideal for us. So that's the ideal target market. That's the people that we don't currently have contact details for, but they're out there in the market and they're people we suspect we should probably bring in. They become a lead at the point when we have contact details. And so put a little symbol there for an email address. If we've got an email address or a phone number or address details, we now have ways to start a conversation with these people. So leads are people we've qualified to say, you know, we've confirmed that they are what we suspect, and we now have their contact details. If we have their contact details, we can start conversations with them and we can actually move them into the sales space. Now, when it comes to consulting, I recommend not moving people to the sales space until they become prospects. So prospect. And what a prospect is someone who has something specific to talk about. So you've had a conversation with your lead and you've identified that they have a specific problem that they want to take care of. Now you're going to invite them into your conversations, into your meetings and the like, to move them through a process to see if this is someone that you can help, right? So that's what a prospect is. And the prospect will move through here all the way down to a sale, if it makes sense. And so when it comes to referrals, for instance, we don't tend to get referrals who are suspects and leads. We tend to get referrals who are prospects. So someone's got something specific to talk about, which is why referrals are so good. But here's the challenge. We can't just get referrals when we want. We can't just go, oh, I want 10 referrals today. Right? We're waiting on someone else to give us referrals, which is why we go about creating this lead generation engine so that we can have conversations when we want to develop people into prospects. And really, that's just a case of having a conversation with them in whatever sense that is. Maybe it's a one-to-many offer saying, I've got a thing, would you like to have a look at the thing? And if they say, yes, I would, then you say, what is it about the thing that's of most interest to you? You can identify the problems and the symptoms that they're suffering from. If they would like to talk about maybe solving that problem, bang, they're a prospect. So now that we understand that concept, now I'll show you the specific 6 steps to create this lead generation machine. All right, so here's our 6 steps. And if you want to build this lead generation machine, you will start from the top, not the end. You'll start from the top and you'll work your way down. Often people will skip the early steps because they're either too hard or they require a little bit of thought. But I recommend that if you do that, if you take the time to actually put a little bit of thought in at the top, it's going to give compound returns at the other end. So what is the first step? Well, the first step is who. So who specifically do you want to engage with? Who are your suspects? Who are the people that you want to work with? And identifying who that is absolutely crucial to create a lead generation system. Now, in the old days, I was happy to sort of work with whatever demographic or idea people have of a target market. But there's two things I want to get across. A demographic is not a market, right? It's not a specific enough who. People saying, I just want to work with women, that's like 4 billion people on the planet. And so it makes it very difficult to target those people because it's too general. And so I'll show you how you can get much more specific as you look at niching in the future. But who becomes much less about demographics and much more about psychographics. What are the things that they're thinking about? What are the challenges and the problems and the symptoms that they're suffering from, right? So who, or, whom, if you are that person who's, the grammar person over here, you've got to define who that is first. If you don't know who it is, take some time. If you're not sure of who you should pick, just pick one. There's some amazing stories of people within my industry who've been sort of muddling around, just serving everybody. And when they've finally decided to pick a specific industry or a specific audience, their business has blown up. There is almost no niche that is going to be too niche for your business. If you go and have a look at the niche, if you go and have a look at the who, and you go on Google and say, are there other people servicing this audience? Then you know that there is money there. There is money there to be made. So the first one is to define specifically who. Now the second one is going to show you whether you did a good job, right? So the second one is where. Where specifically are these people? And so if you put in women and you go to Google and you say, women in my area, it's going to come up with all sorts of weird random stuff. But if you put accountants in, yes, I said accountants again. If you put accountants and then your locality, it will give all these meetings and groups and things and discussion groups that they've got available nearby. Now, if you take it one step further and say accountants and associations, or accountants and networks, accountants and groups, accountants and magazines, you're now going to get a whole list of places where these people are and where they hang out together. If you go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, a general business catch-up, maybe 2% of the people in that room are qualified to even be suspects for the sort of people that you'd want to work with. But if you get clear about your who, and then you actually get clear about where they are and where they show up en masse, so association meetings, networking meetings, things like that, you'll find that 80% of the people in that room are your target market, which means it's so much easier to find them. And you might say, well, they're on LinkedIn. Yeah, but so is everybody else. How specifically are we going to get in a group of these people all in one place? So finding out where they are, absolute key. Now, it could be LinkedIn, but I want to just say out loud, LinkedIn is one of the slower ways to engage people, especially in the corporate world, because on average, people are on LinkedIn once every 2 weeks. All right, that's a long period of time. Now, if you're using LinkedIn on a daily basis like I am, that means that there are other people on the other end that are using it maybe once every 2 months, maybe once every 6 months. So it's very difficult to have a conversation with those sort of people. So I recommend spaces where there's networking opportunities. I think there's spaces where there's even online networking opportunities. So groups, people avoid, for some reason, Facebook groups. But I've made so much money out of connecting with Facebook groups exactly where my target market is. And so you'll look on all these different social spaces, whether it's online, whether it's just online forums, whether it is the different social platforms or even live networking events, and you'll find where these people are. Step number 3, connect. You need some way to connect with these people. Now, I recommend that you do it manually first so you learn how to do it. Then over time, you can get your team members, you can get VAs to do it for you, you can potentially get artificial intelligence to do it, and other bots and robotics, or potentially you can use advertising to connect with people. But I recommend to start is that you go to the places where they are and you connect with them. You're instantly probably thinking of LinkedIn, and yes, you can hit the connect button and you can connect with those people. But again, it's one of the slower forms of doing it. What you can do is you can go and shake hands with somebody at these networking events where your target market is in mass. So 80% of the people in the room are there. So like your room of 200 people, right? You've got a whole bunch of individuals. You do the math yourself. There's a whole bunch of individuals there that you can shake hands with, therefore connecting with. I connect with those people. I talk to those people. I qualify if they are the sort of people who should come into my world. And if so, I make an offer. Right? And the offer itself is usually for something useful. It should be for something useful, right? One of the things I see a lot of smart people doing, and I think it's understandable that a lot of smart people would do this, but they make the mistake of making the first offer hard work. Now, let me explain. Let's say if your first offer is to have a conversation, you're literally asking the person who's probably busy to spend time with you, which is more valuable than money, to be the first engagement that you're offering. That's not offering someone, that's taking something from somebody. Then there's other people, again, very smart people, and this is a good process, but just in the wrong spot, where they might offer a health check or an assessment or a diagnostic. And basically that's the equivalent of going to a doctor, you've got a pain in your leg, you say, "Doctor, I've got a pain in my leg," and the doctor that doesn't have good bedside manner says, "Well, I don't know that it's the pain in your leg. I think that's a referred pain, and we're going to have to do some tests. We're going to have to do some x-rays. We're going to have to do some assessment before we can really decide what's going on." Versus the doctor that's got good bedside manner who says, "I see you've got a pain in your leg. Oh, I imagine you'd want to get rid of that pain." And the person says, "Yes." And they said, "Well, let's create a treatment plan then." Much easier. You don't need to do all the hard stuff. You don't have to make it seem hard. So if you're doing audits and assessments and all those sort of things, they can work, and they certainly used to work better. But now, again, they're another time sink, but they also feel like hard work. So how can you make an offer that makes things easier? How do you make an offer that speeds things up, gives people information potentially, gives them insights, enables them to do things faster or better, right? Less risk. These are all value propositions. Often, in this scenario, we will look at something which we call a lead magnet, and I'm going to talk about how to do that in just a moment. But it's, I've got a thing, would you like the thing? Got one thing, better clients fast, a guide on how to quickly get your next 10 clients. If you want that, just put it in the comments below and I'll send it through to you. But if you want to get your 10 clients fast, right, it's a guide on how to do it. It's a playbook. My who is these consultants who are wanting to build a successful consulting practice, right? I identify where they are, which is in the consulting associations, and it's in the other specialist groups where people with expertise hang out. I go to their meetings and I connect with them. I say, "Hello, how you doing? Oh, yeah, fantastic, great to meet you." They ask me what I do. I ask them what they do. It's all about a bit of back and forth. And at some point, I will discover that they are in the middle of starting or progressing their consulting practice. And I'll say to them, "How's it going?" And they'll say, "Oh, it's a bit slow." I said, "Well, I've got a guide, if you'd like, that actually shows you how to get your first 10 clients quickly." And they go, "Oh, that sounds good." I said, "Would you like a copy?" "Yes, I'd love a copy." "All right, what's the best email address to send that to?" And you write down the email address. Now you have a lead. Now I just showed you the most manual way to do that. Now I want you to think, what are the other ways that are less manual? There's nothing wrong with manual. I would all day long just go, "Here's a lead, here's a lead, here's a lead, here's a lead, here's a lead." But I'm going to show you how you can get leads while you sleep once you've gone through this process. If you find out that no one wants your offer, it's because it's probably not contextually relevant enough to your who. What's going on for them now? What is the problems that are in front of them? How can you help them reduce those problems, reduce the risk? How do you help them get better outcomes? How do you help them move faster, right? So those offers need to be talking to the symptoms that they're suffering from. So now we've done this a few times and we know that this is an offer that this who really, really likes because they say yes to it most of the time. All right, well, now we need to put it in a place where we can automate that happening, that people showing up, saying, "Yes, I want it," and actually giving us some contact details so we can send it to them. We call these things landing pages. All right, so landing page. And a landing page, if you go to russellpearsonprograms.com, you will see a simple landing page and you'll be able to see how you can click a button, put in your contact details, and how you will receive the resource that I've got there for you. But a landing page is basically three things. It will show you specifically what you're going to get. So an image of the cover or the thing that you're going to create, maybe it's a report or something like that, you'll get a picture of that. then a title next to it that says, what is the benefit of this thing? So this is the outcome you're going to get. This is the result. And then the call to action of what they need to do to get it. Doesn't need to be hard. In fact, over the years, 30 years, we've improved our conversion rates, where in the old days it used to be 1%, 2%, then it became 22%, and now we're at 80% conversion rate with some of these landing pages by keeping them simple. People need to know what they're getting, but they don't need to be overblown, especially for a free resource that they're downloading. But people go to that page and they can download it. So there's multiple ways they can get to the page. You can send them to the page. But now that we've got this page, we can put it on our website. People can show up and they can find it and they can click on it and they can put in their details. We can put it as on our LinkedIn profile and all the other profiles that we've got. We put it as a little link with a free resource that people can get. All right, so this will automatically happen. People will start downloading it in dribs and drabs. All right, so it doesn't happen all the time. Step 6, I'm going to show you specifically how to scale that up so you can be getting those leads every single day. But now that you've got the infrastructure to be able to get those leads on autopilot, right? Because people go to this landing page and they download it. Now, one of my favorite ways of creating a landing page is to get a custom URL. So one domain name that is specific for the offer that you're making on this landing page. So you can have yourwebsite.com/offer or something like that. But I find that it's even easier to just get a separate domain that you put for your resources. And that's why I've got russellpearsonprograms.com. And it becomes a really useful thing so that you can just say it out loud. You don't have to say the / and all the other complicated things, and it makes it easier for people to find. It also means that you've got these links all over the place that you've put them over time, and you can change what's on the landing page so your offer can improve. Right? It means you don't have to go and make a new URL each time. So landing page offer. And the only other thing I want to touch on with landing pages is if you want the conversion rate to be high, this is not about having the navigation that's in your website. Websites, by their definition, are an archive of links. And so people arrive at a website, and they, if they instantly don't leave, because that's called a bounce, they stick around because they go, oh, this looks pretty good. They'll start reading, and they will click on a link, and then they'll go and have a read of something else. And maybe they'll look at some of your products or services, and they'll start looking at that. And then someone will yell at them in the background. They'll leave the computer. They'll come back after they've sorted with whatever that was, and they will have forgotten what they were doing, and they will move on to the next thing. And that's why conversion rates on websites are so low. If you go and have a look at your conversion rate on your website that is not a landing page or a squeeze page, that is actually a website with navigation and links that people can click, you'll see it's probably less than 1%, right? Which is really bad. But normal, right? That's normal. You can improve this by removing the navigation, removing all the other links, because when they land on this page, all they get is the offer or they have to leave, right? It's a binary decision rather than having too many decisions to make. So landing pages, critical piece if you want to automate this and get leads while you sleep. So now that you have all this infrastructure in place and you've maybe even got a few leads along the way, it is time to scale and to really blow this up. Now, how do you go about doing that? There tends to be two different ways to do it. There's the free version and then there's a paid version. Because up until now, maybe we've got the link on a profile of some sort, whether it's your LinkedIn profile or whether it's your Instagram profile, and people will find it from time to time. But whether it's free or paid, in the scaling mechanism, we need to put the offer out in front of the who. Now, how do we go about do that? Well, how do we go about doing that? There are free options like this, like the one that you're actually watching right now. This is free content creation that I've done to attract an audience of people who are interested in building a successful consulting practice. Now, a very small portion of those people might want to work with me at some point, and they can raise their hand and they can contact me, and they can go to russellpearson.com and they can contact me that way too to say how we could work together. But ideally, there's things like the landing page where I talk about that every single week, which is russellpearsonprograms.com. By saying that, people will more likely go to that landing page, download the free resource there, and actually have it delivered straight to their email. Now, that's just one option, and I want to say up front, it's taken a good 2 years to build this channel. And so there's a lot of work in the free option. The other free options are presentations, so getting out there, talking on stages. There is publishing, so publishing books and the effort and even the advertising that goes around creating a book that enough people are reading. You can also do public relations. So you can get on television, radio, and in press and use this link to talk about where they can learn more about you or where they can actually take a further step with you. So all those free options, they absolutely work and can work very well for you, but they do take effort. Now, there is another option, which is more the advertising route. Now, it's a paid option. And it's interesting with the paid option, a lot of people avoid the paid option and will choose the free option. But the amount of time they spend in the free option, if they actually calculate that amount of time, they would realize how much they would save by actually doing the advertised version. And so advertising absolutely works for consulting practices. And there is all sorts of different advertising you can use. You can actually advertise inside industry publications. You can advertise on their, you can sponsor their events. You can advertise through their online magazines. There's all those options, but there's also pay-per-click advertising where you pay when somebody clicks. And so people can put advertising up on Google and then the Alphabet, suite of products. So it includes YouTube you can advertise on as well. Or you could advertise on Facebook and then Meta's world of fun, which has actually been incredibly valuable for me. I've found it to be more useful to advertise for consultants on Facebook than any other platform, funnily enough. And you might think, well, it doesn't make sense that would work because there's no professionals sort of on Facebook, but humans are on Facebook and they actually run professional jobs even though they're on Facebook. And my advertising jumps up and says, if you are a consultant who is wanting to grow a successful consulting practice, then look at this thing. It engages them that way. So again, we're calling out the specific audience where they are. And so if you take the steps, if you identify specifically where they are, a method to connect with them, an offer that they want, create a landing page to systemize that process, and then scale it up, you will not only be getting leads every day, but you will have an abundance of opportunities and you will be in demand. And once you're in demand, it creates so many good opportunities for you to be very selective with the clients that you work with. You get to then choose the good projects. You get to choose how you work. You get to choose when you work. And that is part of the fun of becoming a select consultant. And so that's how you create daily leads and a lead generation engine. I'd love to know how you go. So either put questions or comments in the comments below. Let me know if you've implemented some of these steps and how they actually went for you, because the majority of the people that I share these steps with do not put them into play. I don't understand why that is. They're wanting the outcome. This is how you get the outcome. This is the lead generation system that enables you to have the business of your dreams. My name's Russell Pearson. I'd love you to subscribe. If you have subscribed, ring the bell and get notified when the next episode becomes available. This is the Your Consulting Business Podcast. Until next time, stay passionate, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.